Good morning, guys. How are you doing? Are you doing well? I'm so glad you all came to school today because this is the place where we learn new things. And today we are going to learn about sink and float. Can you repeat the words after me? Sink and float. Sink and float. Now, before we start the lesson, I am going to show you a video clip about sink and float, just so that you can understand it a little bit better.
Whoa! Look at what it is. This is a tank. And I have an idea. Today, let's learn about buoyancy and density. Buoyancy and density. Okay, first, what we're gonna do is fill up this tank full of water. And then, once this tank is full of water, then you and I are gonna go outside and find some objects, and we're gonna put it in the water and play a game. And that game is gonna be called Sink or Float. So, we're gonna guess which items are gonna either sink or float. Wow, this is gonna be so much fun. Okay. Just a little bit more water. Whoa. Okay, that right there is a perfect amount of water. Now let's go get some objects so then we can guess if they're either gonna sink or float. Whoa! 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 Here we go! Okay, now that we're outside, let's go find some things to see if they either sink or float. Oh, look! This day is going so perfect so far. It's a tote, so we can put stuff in it, of course. Whoa! Look! Our first object, a flower. These are dandelions. Ooh, a balance beam. What? Oh, wow! Look! 2 pine cones. Pine cones come off of trees. Some glue. I wonder if these sink or float. I guess we gotta wait and see. Put them in there. Here we go. Oh, cool monkey bars. Yay! That was so much fun gathering all these items with you. Okay, now we gotta put the items inside the water and we're gonna see if they're gonna sink or float. I guess it sinks. Oh, and a couple more things. Pine cones. Whoa, so prickly. Okay, here we go. Woohoo! They float to the top. Okay, ooh, another pair of blippy glasses. Hello? Hello? I can't see. Oh, there I go. Sit here for a little bit. Wow. Whoa, it's getting really slimy already. Whoa. Well, that was so much fun seeing these items either sink or float. Good job. Maybe we should do this again. If you want to watch this video again.
Okay. Did you enjoy that? Good. Did you learn anything? Yes, we've learned about sinking and floating. So what does it mean when something sinks? Yes, it means it goes down to the bottom of the water. And what does it mean when something floats? Yes, very good. It stays on top of the water. It can float. It doesn't go down. Can our bodies float on the water? Can your body float on the water? Oh, I'm so glad to hear some of you can float. That's very good. Can a rubber ducky in the bath, you know those yellow rubber duckies, can they float on the water? Yes, well done. Now what would happen if I take a rock and I throw it into the river? What will happen to it? Will it sink or will it float? Okay, some of you say it will sink and some of you say it will float. Now, can you remember when we did different types of transport on the ocean in a previous lesson? We spoke about large ships. Now, have you ever wondered how it is possible that such a large ship can float in the sea and then the rock sinks to the bottom of the bath? We are going to do a little experiment today. Now, I have a glass bowl of water and I have a piece of wood and I have a marble. Now, what do you think will happen if I put this piece of wood in the water? Do you think it will float or sink? Okay, let's see. Oh, it floats. Very interesting. Now, what do you think will happen if I put this teeny tiny marble into the water? You think it will float as well? Okay, well, let's see. Oh dear, it sank to the bottom. Now, do you know why the piece of wood floats and the marble sink? Now, the reason for that is because of the density of an object. Now, repeat after me. Density. Density. Now, density happens because inside an object are teeny tiny molecules that can only be seen by a microscope, and it's inside every object. Now, it looks like this. Let's just move this a bit and you can see. Now, these are teeny tiny molecules. Now, in the wooden log, in the piece of wood, there's only a few molecules. So that means, and they've spread far apart, so that means that the log is not very heavy. And when it's not very heavy, it can float on top of the water. But in the marble, there is a lot of molecules and they jam-packed inside this marble, which makes the density higher. So when the density is high, it makes the object heavy, and that is why it floats to the bottom. If I had to show this to you like this, it's like a glass filled with a lot of sand and the density is high, or a glass that's got nothing in it, it's got low density. So the more molecules there is, the higher the density, the more heavier the object is. I'm going to show you another example just so that you can understand it better. If I drop this rock into this glass bowl, what do you think will happen to it? Oh, let's see. Oh, it sinks to the bottom. And what do you think if I drop this apple in here? Okay, let's see. The apple floats. So that means the more heavier and the more molecules and more dense an object is, it will sink to the bottom. But if there's only a few, it will float. Now that's exactly the same with the ship. The inside of the ship is hollow. There is not a lot of molecules and then the density is low. That means that the ship can float on the water. But if we fill that ship full of water, which has got a high density, what will happen to the ship if we fill it up with water? Have you ever heard of ships that went down and sank and we never heard about them again, like the Titanic? Yes, they sink to the bottom. So the minute we put a lot of water into the ship, it will sink. Now that is how it works, that something can sink or float. Now I want you to go to your tables and in your colored groups, and you will see on your table there is a plastic tub filled with water and a worksheet, and there are a few objects on the table. So each one will get a chance to take an object and predict first if you think it will sink or will it float, and then you mark it on your worksheet. And then at the end, you do it with all the objects. And when you finish, we will come back to the carpet and we will discuss your findings and if your predictions was correct.